My fellow Americans, I've been told to stay quiet. I've been told to sit down. I've even been told that my voice no longer matters. But let me tell you this, when someone tries to silence you, it is not because your words are weak, it is because your words carry power. Now, I want to be clear. This is not about me. This is about us. This is about the soul of America. The question before us is simply, do we surrender to fear, anger, and division? Or do we choose hope, courage, and unity? Throughout our history, every attempt to silence voices of truth has only made them stronger. When Dr. King spoke of justice, he was threatened. When ordinary citizens marched for equality, they were pushed back. But time and time again, America rose. And so must we? I am not here to fight one man. I am here to stand with millions who believe in something greater than themselves. I am here to remind you that our democracy is not a gift. It is a responsibility, and it belongs to all of us. So tonight, let us make a choice, not the easy choice, not the comfortable choice, but the right choice. The choice to stand together, to lift one another, and to speak louder than any attempt to silence us. Because in the end, the future of America will not be written by those who seek to divide us. It will be written by all of us together. Yes, we can. Yes, we will. Attempts to silence truth only prove its power, because truth has a way of piercing through the noise, echoing in the hearts of people, and refusing to be buried no matter how hard others try. Throughout history, every attempt to quiet the voices of justice, every effort to suppress the cries of freedom, has only strengthened the resolve of those who carry the flame of what is right. When truth is attacked, it does not vanish. Instead, it grows stronger, it multiplies, and it inspires countless others to rise and carry it forward. Think about those who tried to silence leaders who spoke for justice. They tried to stop Abraham Lincoln, but his words still define freedom. They tried to silence Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but his dream still guides generations. They tried to suppress the voices of women fighting for the right to vote. Yet today women stand tall in every field of leadership. The pattern is clear: truth cannot be chained. When someone attempts to bury it, they only plant the seed deeper into the soil of history, where it grows stronger roots and spreads even wider branches. Attempts to silence truth are born out of fear. Fear that the truth will expose lies. Fear that it will awaken people to demand more. Fear that power built on injustice will crumble under the weight of honesty. But fear cannot last forever, because hope is stronger than fear and courage is stronger than silence. The power of truth lies not just in the words we speak, but in the courage to keep speaking them, even when faced with opposition. It lies in the millions of ordinary people who choose to stand firm, who refuse to be intimidated, who say, "I will not be quiet when justice calls me to speak." Every person who dares to tell the truth, even when it is unpopular, adds another unshakable stone to the foundation of freedom. Silencing truth might win for a day, or even a season, but never forever. History shows us that every silenced voice returns louder, carried by a movement, by a generation, by a nation that refuses to forget. The truth, once spoken, cannot be erased. It leaves an imprint on the human spirit that no threat, no intimidation, no attempt to erase it can ever remove. This is why those who fight for truth must never give in to despair. The struggle may be long, the obstacles many, but the outcome is certain. Truth does not bend, it does not break, and it does not fade. It only grows stronger with time. The louder the attempt to silence it, the deeper it resonates in the hearts of those who hear it. Attempts to silence truth only prove its power. They remind us that the truth matters, that it shakes the foundations of injustice, that it stirs the conscience of humanity. And so long as we have the courage to speak it, to defend it, and to live by it, truth will always rise, stronger than before, unstoppable and eternal. America's fight is not about one man, but about the nation's soul, because the destiny of this country has never rested in the hands of a single individual. It has always belonged to the people, the citizens who rise each day, who work, who dream, and who carry forward the promise of freedom. One man may seek power, one man may demand loyalty, one man may try to shape the story of this nation in his own image, but America's story is much bigger, much deeper, and much stronger than that. It is the story of generations who struggled, sacrificed, and believed that a nation of by and for the people could endure. When we say this fight is about the soul of the nation, we are talking about the values that define us: fairness, justice, equality, compassion, and the belief that every person matters. These ideals are not bound to one leader or one moment. They are the very heart of America itself. To reduce this struggle to the rise or fall of one man is to forget that our founders declared independence not for a king or against a single ruler, but for the principle that power rests with the people. The question before us has always been, will we live up to those ideals, or will we allow fear and division to turn us away from them? The soul of America has been tested many times. It was tested when slavery tried to define who was worthy of freedom. It was tested when women were denied a voice in their own democracy. It was tested during wars abroad and battles for civil rights at home. And each time it was not one man who carried us through, but the courage of millions who refused to give up on the idea of America. That is what moves this nation forward. The danger of believing our future depends on one man is that it blinds us to our own responsibility. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It does not wait for a savior. It demands participation. It demands vigilance. It demands that ordinary citizens stand together and defend what is right. No matter how loud the voice of one individual, it cannot drown out the voices of millions who choose to speak with unity and purpose. America's soul is reflected in how we treat one another. Do we see our neighbor as an enemy, or do we see them as part of the same American family? Do we allow anger and resentment to divide us, or do we choose empathy and understanding to bring us closer? These choices, made by everyday people, are what determine the future of this nation far more than the decisions of any one leader. When history looks back on this moment, it will not measure us by the tweets or the speeches of one man. It will measure us by how we responded. Did we allow ourselves to be consumed by bitterness and division? Or did we rise above, choosing unity, courage, and justice? The soul of America is in the hands of its people. It is shaped by our choices, our voices, and our willingness to stand up for the promise that all are created equal. America's fight is not about one man, but about the nation's soul, and that soul will endure so long as we remember who we are, what we stand for, and why we must always move forward together. History shows that justice grows stronger when challenged, because every obstacle, every attempt to suppress it, has only made its roots deeper and its voice louder. Justice has never walked an easy road. It has always been tested by the weight of opposition, the resistance of those who benefit from inequality, and the fear of change. Yet time and time again, justice has proven to be unbreakable. When it is pushed down, it rises higher. When it is silenced, it speaks louder. When it is delayed, it does not disappear. It grows in urgency and strength until it can no longer be denied. Look at the long arc of human history, and you will see that progress was never handed down freely. Slavery did not end because it was convenient. It ended because countless men and women stood, fought, and believed in freedom, even when the odds were against them. The right for women to vote did not come without ridicule and resistance. Yet the voices of those who demanded equality could not be contained. The civil rights movement faced violence, jail cells, and hatred. But from that storm emerged laws and protections that reshaped a nation. Each challenge did not weaken justice. It strengthened it. It made the call for fairness resonate more powerfully across generations. The truth is, justice needs challenge. Without struggle, it remains an idea. With struggle, it becomes a movement. Opposition forces us to prove the depth of our convictions, to test whether we are willing to stand firm, to sacrifice, and to endure. Those who oppose justice often believe they can scare it into silence, but history shows they only awaken a greater determination. Every barrier torn down, every battle won, becomes a reminder that justice is not fragile. It is resilient, forged in the fires of adversity. Justice grows stronger because it belongs to the people. It cannot be owned by rulers or controlled by institutions alone. It lives in the hearts of those who know what it feels like to be denied and who refuse to let that denial stand for the next generation. It thrives when ordinary citizens link arms and say, enough is enough. And when those moments come, when people rise in courage despite the risk, justice becomes unstoppable. Even today, challenges to justice continue. There are still those who try to deny equal rights, who try to weaken democracy, who try to divide people by race, religion, or class. Yet each attempt only sparks new voices, new leaders, new movements. Each injustice becomes a lesson, teaching future generations to fight harder and stand taller. That is why, despite all the darkness, progress continues. It is slower than we wish, more painful than we expect, but it is steady and undeniable. The lesson of history is clear: justice does not shrink in the face of opposition. It grows. It takes root in struggle. It gains strength in resistance. And it shines brightest when surrounded by darkness. Those who stand against justice may win temporary victories, but in the long run, they strengthen the very cause they sought to destroy. And so long as people believe in fairness, equality, and dignity for all, justice will continue its march. Stronger, louder, and more enduring with every challenge it faces. Democracy is a responsibility, not a gift, because it does not simply appear or sustain itself without the constant effort of the people who live within it. It is not something handed down from generation to generation as if it were a permanent possession, untouched by time or challenge. Democracy must be earned, defended, and renewed by every generation that benefits from it. To see it only as a gift is to take it for granted, to assume it will remain intact without our care. But history has shown that when people grow complacent, when they forget their duty to protect the freedoms they cherish, democracy begins to erode. Democracy is built on participation. It requires the voices of citizens, the courage to speak out, and the willingness to show up, not just on election day, but in everyday life. It asks each of us to see ourselves not only as individuals, but as part of a greater whole. The strength of a democracy is not found in its leaders alone, but in the millions of ordinary people who take their responsibility seriously, those who vote, those who volunteer, those who stand up for justice even when it is difficult. Without that active involvement, democracy becomes an empty shell, vulnerable to corruption, division, and abuse. It is also important to remember that democracy demands sacrifice. It requires patience when debates stretch long, humility when our side does not win, and respect for the rule of law even when it challenges our desires. Responsibility means recognizing that freedom comes with obligations. To protect the rights of others, to ensure fairness, and to treat our neighbors with dignity even when we disagree. These responsibilities may feel heavy, but they are what keep democracy alive and real. Throughout history, people have fought and died for the chance to live under a system where their voice mattered. They marched in the streets, they endured prison cells, they crossed oceans and borders for the hope of freedom. To call democracy a gift is to forget their sacrifice. It is not a present wrapped neatly for us to enjoy, and is the outcome a struggle, and it survives only when we continue that struggle in our time. When citizens grow silent, when they assume someone else will take responsibility, democracy falters. When citizens stand up, democracy flourishes. The responsibility of democracy also lies in protecting it for the future. Every generation must ask, what are we doing to make this nation stronger, fairer, and more inclusive for those who come after us? That means teaching the value of truth, demanding accountability from leaders, and ensuring that power never belongs to one person, but always remains in the hands of the people. Responsibility means not only guarding our own rights, but ensuring that those who are most vulnerable are not left behind. Democracy is fragile when neglected, but unbreakable when nurtured. Its strength lies not in perfection, but in the constant effort of citizens to push it closer to its ideals. When people understand it as a responsibility, they treat it with care, they protect it from threats, and they pass it forward stronger than they received it. That is how democracy endures, not as a gift that can be taken for granted, but as a duty that must always be embraced with vigilance and courage. Unity and collective courage will shape America's future, because the greatness of this nation has never been measured by the power of one person, but by the strength of many standing together. Throughout our history, America has faced storms that seemed too fierce to endure, wars that tore us apart, injustices that denied freedom to millions, crises that tested our spirit, but in each of those moments, it was unity and courage that carried us forward. Not the kind of unity that demands we all think the same or look the same, but the unity that comes from recognizing a shared destiny, a common purpose, and a belief that together we are stronger than any force that seeks to divide us. Courage alone can be powerful, but when courage is shared collectively, when it becomes the heartbeat of a people, it transforms nations. It is one thing for one voice to cry out for justice, but when millions join that cry, it becomes a movement. It is one thing for one person to demand fairness, but when communities rise together, fairness becomes inevitable. The courage of individuals matters deeply, yet the courage of a united people is unstoppable. That is the lesson America has shown time and again. Consider the chapters of our history where unity and collective courage defined who we became. During the Revolution, farmers, merchants, and ordinary citizens banded together to empire far more powerful than themselves. They faced not only the threat of defeat, but the possibility of losing everything they had. Yet their courage was not theirs alone. It was shared, fueled by the belief that their children deserved freedom. That unity gave birth to a nation. Years later, when slavery threatened to tear this country apart, It was the collective courage of abolitionists, soldiers, and those who escaped bondage that turned the tide toward freedom. One man's bravery could inspire, but the united courage of thousands broke the chains of millions. The same spirit carried through the struggles of women demanding the right to vote, workers demanding fair wages, and citizens demanding civil rights. These were not solitary fights, though each movement began with individuals who dared to speak up. They became victories because people stood shoulder to shoulder, refusing to surrender. They faced ridicule, violence, and oppression. But together they grew stronger. That is the enduring truth. Unity does not erase hardship, but it makes hardship bearable and transforms it into progress. Today, America faces challenges of a different kind, but no less daunting. Division has deepened, distrust has grown, anger often shouts louder than understanding. It is easy in such a climate to retreat into isolation, to see neighbors as strangers, or even as enemies. But if we give in to that temptation, we forget what has always defined this nation. Our strength has never been built on uniformity. It has been built on diversity woven together by unity. That means choosing to listen when it is easier to argue, choosing to stand together when it is easier to stand apart, and choosing to hope when it is easier to fear. Unity does not mean ignoring differences. It does not mean pretending injustices do not exist. Unity requires honesty. It asks us to face the truth of our failings, to acknowledge the wounds in our society, and to work together to heal them. It is not the absence of struggle, but the decision to struggle together. Courage plays its role here because it takes courage to admit we are wrong, courage to extend a hand to someone we disagree with, courage to believe that a future of fairness is possible when cynicism tells us it is not. Without courage, unity is fragile. With courage, unity becomes unbreakable. The future of America depends not on whether we avoid challenges, but on whether we face them together. Climate change, inequality, threats to democracy, and the forces of division. None of these can be solved by one group alone. They require collective courage, a willingness to sacrifice for the good of others, a commitment to stand together even when the path is hard. When citizens act not only for themselves but for their neighbors, when leaders think not only of power but of service, when communities come together across divides of race, religion, and class, then America moves closer to its highest ideals. It is important to remember that unity is not passive. It is not waiting for someone else to bring us together. It is a choice each of us makes daily. It is the parent teaching their child to respect others, the worker standing up for fairness, the young person marching for change, the voters showing up on election day. Every act of courage, when joined with others, becomes part of a collective force that shapes the nation. We cannot wait for unity to fall from the sky. It must be built, nurtured, and lived. The stakes are high because disunity has a cost. When we turn against one another, we weaken our democracy. When we allow fear to guide us, we abandon hope. When we see fellow citizens as adversaries, we lose sight of the larger picture, that we all want to leave behind a country worthy of our children. But unity anchored in courage reverses that trend. It transforms fear into resilience, division into cooperation, and despair into progress. History teaches us that every generation is called to decide how it will shape the future. Some chose fear, and their progress was stalled. Others chose unity and courage, and they pushed America closer to its promise. This generation faces the same choice. Will we be remembered as people who allowed anger to pull us apart, or as people who stood together, bravely, to build a more perfect union? The answer will not come from one leader or one institution. It will come from all of us. Unity and collective courage will shape America's future because when people stand as one, there is no challenge too great, no obstacle too high, no darkness too deep. Our past has proven it, our present demands it, and our future depends on it. This is the path forward, not division, not silence, not fear, but the shared courage of millions who believe that together, we can create a nation worthy of its highest ideals. And if we choose that path, then America's future